here's what I'm thinking. I'm doing this video so I don't have to type out a whole bunch of stuff, but this goes out to anyone who's working out some stuff in their hands, because I was playing and I was like, you know what? With the foundations I talk about and the angles and the shapes of the natural hand that I talk about, this one thing that I do doesn't make sense. How can I make it make more sense? So I was thinking about, in the context of paradiddles, like if my set position, which to myself and to any one of my students I've defined as right slightly downward angle through a straight line of the forearm, but in reality our flat wrist or our flat height is like what kind of a, at least for the right hand, what a straight wrist is. And breaking down traditional grip, a lot of people over the years have been like, hey yo, this ain't a straight wrist, you know, where there's like a straight line right here. This is a straight wrist, you know, this is where the wrist is most relaxed, so there is that slight curve. And I was thinking about that in my right hand, and I was like, where do I see that in my playing in my right hand? And it's like, that should be taps, right? Because otherwise I'm, you know, slightly downward. And I think from, I think an MCM height sheet, it was like below fulcrum, you know, with your fulcrum, with your beads below the fulcrum is your set position, or your 1 inch, what's the word called again? Grace note. Or your 1 inch grace note height, and then it said the beads at fulcrum level is your taps. And so I was like, okay, then that makes sense to be the straight wrist rather than the set position being the straight wrist, because then I'd be looking, at least in the right hand, looking like this, and I'd already be kind of pre-cranked, and I wouldn't work under the fulcrum at all, rather than working under the fulcrum here and then coming up to add the fulcrum 3 inches like this. So I was playing paradiddles and I was like, why does this not feel good? And I was like, oh, I think it's because sometimes what I do is in the efforts of just getting a super good downstroke, I was doing this thing where I would like basically not accept any rebound, not you know, and that's why I'm saying it doesn't match the rest of my philosophy, because my philosophy would be rebound exactly a tap height, right, for the next stroke. What I was doing is, I think in efforts to get a good downstroke and get good taps, because, you know, that was one of my big battles really early on in my playing, was like my taps. I was like, tap. And then I was like, I need a diddle. So I think in the fast process of just like, you know, crunching out diddles, I was just like going no rebound, and then all of a sudden I had no room to work with. So I think my wrist would pop up in order to then work paradiddles up here. So I'd be like, instead of really slow motion, tap height with straight wrist, you know, tap or upstroke, tap, tap, it was more like no rebound, tap, or upstroke, and then like tap, tap. And that's what it would look like really fast. And then really fast, I think if I restrict all rebound, I can make it look the same again, or how it did. Kind of like that. So you can kind of see, like, it's already screwing up the rhythms a little bit too, is like this up and down of like my forearm, you know, it's like bam, do, 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 instead of, you know, downstroke to tap height, upstroke, downstroke to tap height, left hand, tap, tap. It didn't look like that in the fast motion. If I slowed down the fast motion, it would have looked horrible. It would have looked, you know, I already demonstrated it. But instead I was like, how can I just make this feel more like I'm playing good taps, you know, rather than, you know, kind of, this is exaggerating, but I think that's a good way to show it. That's kind of what I was doing, and my wrist was like popping up in order to make up for the space that I didn't have, rather than this. Right, so a lot less. Yeah, this is a better angle. Right? I think that's all I had to say about it. But I just thought it was a cool discovery that, like, if you have a student or you're chopping out at a certain tempo and it's like, why do these feel and look horrible? Like, why does it look like I'm having a really hard time? That might be something that kind of makes sense to you, because I love digging down deep into why our body works the way it does with this whole drumming thing. So, hope that helps. Straight wrists at tap height, and incorporating that into everything that we do. Thanks, and have a great day. Also, I know it's not the best angle because there's still the sideways part of my hand that makes it look like it's way under my wrist than it is. But looking at from here, I think, ooh, this is gonna make the video look dizzy. You know, set position is like here, and like the way that I kind of figured it out then after that was like seeing this angle from this side, seeing this wrist angle. So, you know, this is kind of the straight, and then I come up to taps, and it's kind of like that, to be at the fulcrum with the bead. And what I was talking about was for a downstroke, instead of, you know, just going to tap height and having the good wrist angle, it was just doing all the way down and then up and then tap for paradiddles, which made it look like this during paradiddles instead of this. Yeah. I'm gonna use this next part of the video. I'm in the School of Music right now. I took this video on a couple different days, but I wanted to open up this part of the video, kind of just like asking around about information about different people's bodies, and, you know, how your, you know, with your body proportions and stuff, how it affects how you set up your, you know, the most ergonomic technique. So this one, I'm gonna ask about the fulcrum. Because when I hold a stick and I have a good fulcrum that, like, if I put pressure, it doesn't move, right? And then I wrap my fingers around. I don't know if it's, if it has to do with like my finger length or people's finger length. But like, I feel like that would affect the finger setup, right? And the spacing of the fingers. So like, if I have my fulcrum, which is a good fulcrum, and if I move it this way or this way, it's gonna be a bad fulcrum, right? And then I wrap my fingers around the stick, you know, so that everything's meat is touching. There is that like gap there. And I've seen a lot of people have that, and I've seen a lot of people not have that. So I'm curious of, like, you know, you could say, oh yeah, I have super short fingers, there's no gap, whatever, or like, yeah, my fingers are super long and it like totally, you know, it's totally there. So let me know about your thoughts on that. I think in the paradiddle video that I was showing, like, there was an ounce, just a little ounce of relaxation in my like front fulcrum. I was just like playing paradiddles for the camera, and like the front finger slid up a little bit. So I don't think that's a good representative of what my fulcrum usually looks like. It's more like, let's break it down. Ooh, with this convenient light, we got that there. You know, that's probably the fulcrum right there. And there's about that much room. So imagine a stick in there. This probably isn't very pretty. I'm just walking to my car. So yeah, that's what I got about fulcrums. So if you have thoughts on it, DM me and let me know. Thanks. So I don't know if anyone's gonna even get this far, but I wanted to ask about your forearms and your wrists. Is there anyone else who's like, their forearm has like a natural bend to it? Like, this is me with a straight wrist, and you can already see that there's like a, I don't know if you can see it like that. Ooh. I guess that's the best angle. And then if you felt it, it was like, I don't know, she just ain't straight. And so when I drum, even if my wrist be plenty straight, that wrist bone looks like it's popping up all the time.
You know? I don't know. Let me know.